Most people know that marriage changes your legal rights. In terms of property, Texas has a community property system. Under this system, money or property either spouse acquires during marriage is community property and jointly owned. I'm Tom Oldham, a professor at the University of Houston Law Center. If you're thinking about getting married or are married, you may want to understand how the community property system will affect your rights and whether you want to change those rules in your marriage. Basically, community property is property that's owned jointly by both parties, regardless of who acquired it. For example, community property includes money earned by either spouse, lottery or gambling winnings won by either spouse, or interest on bank accounts. In the event of a death or divorce, community property is generally divided equally between the spouses. On the other hand, some property is considered separate and not owned jointly and is owned solely by the spouse who acquired it or saved it. Separate property includes anything owned before marriage, things one spouse acquires by inheritance, or gifts to one spouse. When a marriage ends, each party keeps his or her separate property. If these property rules are not rules you want to govern your marriage, Texas law allows you to change them. However, to do that, you need to sign a written agreement. It would be a good idea to talk to a lawyer months before the wedding. Finally, when a marriage ends by death or divorce, all property possessed at that time by either spouse is presumed to be community property. If one spouse wants to claim some property as separate, that person needs to show that it's separate. Because of this, it's helpful to keep good records to show what you owned when you married, as well as evidence that certain property was acquired during marriage by gift or inheritance. Finally, there are certain practical things you should discuss and resolve before you get married. For example, will you have a joint or separate bank account? How will important financial decisions be made? What level of expenditures will require the approval of both parties? Think about your future and how it might affect your family income. Also, think about how you plan to spend your family income. How much do you want to allocate to housing, cars, vacations, savings? Do either of you plan to stay in or go to school? A little planning can help ensure a good marriage.